Okay, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a vault, but instead of paper money, it's packed with emeralds the size of your fist and millions of solid gold coins. Now imagine that vault is a ghost ship at the bottom of the ocean. This is the story of the San Jose.
$17 billion. And you know what? That's actually the low-end estimate. This one ship holds the single most valuable sunken treasure in all of human history. And for over 300 years, that's exactly where it has stayed, untouched, just sitting there on the seabed under unbelievable pressure, in a place so deep that sunlight hasn't reached it since the day it went down.
But here's the real twist in this story. The San Jose isn't lost anymore. Not at all. We know exactly where it is. We've seen it with our own robotic eyes, we have the photos. The mystery of its location is solved.
So what's the holdup? If we know where it is, why is it still down there? Well, that's what this is all about. The problem isn't the depth or the dark. We actually have the tech to start bringing it up tomorrow. No, the real reason it's still locked away is because of a silent, brutal war happening right now on the surface. A war between governments, corporations, and their lawyers.
To really understand this fight, you have to go back, way back, all the way to the year 1708, when the Spanish Empire, the world's superpower at the time, was running out of money and needed cash fast.
And this was the ship that was going to solve their problems. See, the San Jose wasn't just some ship. It was a monster, a 64-gun galleon, the flagship of the entire Spanish fleet. It was basically a floating fortress with one very specific mission: haul the collected wealth of South America back to Spain to fund a massive war.
And the manifest, wow. What it was carrying is just staggering. We're talking tons and tons of silver from the infamous mines of Potosi, gold collected from all over the empire, chests overflowing with uncut Colombian emeralds. And get this, 11 million gold coins. This wasn't just a lot of money. It was the entire accumulated wealth of a continent on one ship. Now, the ship's captain, José Fernández de Santillán, was no fool. He was a seasoned veteran. He knew the British Royal Navy was out there hunting for him. His spies had told him so. But he made one critical, fatal mistake. He looked at his massive ship, his cannons, his crew, and he thought, we can take them. He was wrong. On June 8, 1708, so close to the safety of port, the British ships appeared on the horizon. The battle raged as the sun went down, just this chaotic scene of cannon fire in the darkness. And then it happened. One lucky shot. A British cannonball smashed right into the ship's powder magazine. The San Jose didn't just sink, it detonated. It became a fireball so massive the heat was felt on the enemy ships. And within minutes, it vanished, taking 600 sailors and that unbelievable fortune straight to the bottom.
Okay, now let's flash forward nearly 300 years. The San Jose has faded into legend. It's a ghost story that treasure hunters whisper about. But with modern technology, the hunt begins for real.
For decades, the search was long and frustrating. But then, in 1981, a group of American investors called Sea Search Armada, or SSA, claimed they'd pinpointed the wreck site. That claim kicked off decades of lawsuits and arguments, until finally, in 2015, the wreck was officially and undeniably found.
And this is where the treasure hunt turns into a story of straight-up betrayal. Back in the 80s, SSA made a pretty standard deal with the Colombian government. We find the wreck, we split the treasure 50-50. So they handed over the coordinates. But as soon as Colombia had the location, they changed their own laws, basically trying to argue that SSA wasn't entitled to a single coin.
Decades later, with SSA tangled up in court, the Colombian Navy launched its own top-secret mission. They took an autonomous underwater robot to a classified spot in the ocean and sent it down and down. At nearly 2,000 feet, their cameras finally saw it.
And what they saw was the smoking gun. The robot sent back these incredibly clear images of the ship's cannons. And they weren't just any cannons. They had these unique, ornate dolphin engravings on them, a detail that historical records confirmed belonged only to the San Jose. That was it. There was no doubt. They'd found the holy grail of shipwrecks. You'd think a discovery like this would lead to a worldwide celebration, right? Nope. What it did was ignite an international firestorm over who gets the $17 billion.
It's basically a four-way standoff. First, you've got Spain, who says, hey, that was our naval vessel, it's a war grave, it belongs to us. Then you have Colombia, who says, nope, it's in our waters, so it's our cultural heritage. Then there's Sea Search Armada, the original finders, saying, we had a contract, we want our half. And finally, the indigenous Caracara nation of Bolivia makes a powerful claim. Our enslaved ancestors were forced to mine that gold and silver. It was stolen from us, and it should be returned.
And because nobody can agree, that treasure is now more heavily guarded than it was in 1708. The exact location is a state secret, and the wreck site is patrolled around the clock by Colombian warships. It's completely untouchable.
And so the San Jose is stuck. It was found, only to be lost all over again. But this time, it's not trapped by the sea. It's trapped by human law and human greed.
And even if everyone magically agreed tomorrow, there's a huge problem. Archaeologists are terrified that the ship's 300-year-old wood would literally turn to dust the second it hits the open air. The recovery is an insane technical challenge. Some have even proposed building a giant underwater container to lift the entire section of the seabed. A huge museum is already being planned, but not a single shovel can hit the dirt until this legal war ends. This quote from Colombia's former president just says it all. This isn't just about some old gold coins. This is, literally, the most valuable treasure that has been found in the history of humanity.
And so, there it sits, in the cold, silent dark. A $17 billion ghost, held captive not by the ocean, but by the endless arguments of the living.
Which kind of leaves you with one big question, right? After all these centuries of searching and all the fighting, maybe some treasures aren't meant to be owned. Maybe they're just meant to be chased.
The San Jose is a treasure trapped by law. Next time, we're going to look at a scientific discovery that was trapped by fear. An invention so powerful, so world-changing, that it was allegedly hidden away, maybe even destroyed, because it was considered too dangerous for us to handle. Join us then.